they do have a Superflex tournament now, the big board Superflex. So let's unpack that a little bit. How much have you gotten in on these Underdog Superflex drafts?
I can't remember. I think it's 6 or 7 or something like that. But I wasn't keeping track. I was just I hadn't played Superflex stuff. Certainly not Bestball before. So I was drafting for kind of experimental self-education purposes at first, and had embarrassingly little idea what I was doing. And I'm sure that's still the case too. But it's still a little better by now than it was initially.
So to give the broader view of how these function, for those who aren't in the know, Superflex means that you can start a quarterback in your flex spot. And the way that Underdog has it formatted for your starting lineup every week, it's one quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. That's the big change, other than the
it's
Superflex
almost as big of a detail as the Superflex is itself.
Yes.
But yeah, it's big, and I didn't notice that for the first 2 or 3 drafts. But luckily, John, I'm kind of prone to taking running backs more and earlier than a lot of modes of analysis these days advocate. So that it's to the benefit of the running back position didn't really matter for my teams, because I was kind of hammering it anyway, just for no particular reason, even though there was the additional reason in the 2 wide receiver detail.
So, with that in mind, and skill positions getting pushed down a little bit in light of the quarterback, because but as you can imagine, as you can assume, quarterbacks get pushed up a lot more quickly. You see quarterbacks going in the first round, a lot of quarterbacks going in the first round, because you don't want to be left holding the bag with a bottom tier starter, and then a guy who has limited or concerning job security. So therefore, quarterbacks go early. As a result, who have been some favorite skill guys to go after in those early rounds that you've found it can be a little bit of a value in light of those quarterback runs early?
Well, I would say you probably want to go quarterback if you have any of the first 7 picks. The ADP as it is, it goes Josh Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Fields, Burrow, Herbert, and that's at 6.6 ADP in Herbert's case. Lamar Jackson had been going behind Trevor Lawrence. I see now he's going ahead of Lawrence at 8.1. I think there's a case to put Lamar ahead of Herbert. Not that I actually have a viewpoint either way. I like Herbert plenty too. But I think if you have a top 7 pick, you want to just go quarterback, depending on which one you rank the highest of that group. And not that I'm against Lawrence at 8 or 7 or whatever else too, but it's just Herbert is. Oh, did I lose John here? Sometimes John's internet goes out, but he'll probably get back at some point. Let's see, what was I saying? Oh, so Herbert, to me, I'm kind of arbitrarily setting the line at Herbert and Lamar, because Herbert very recently had that 5,000 yard, 30 touchdown. Oh, John, you there?
Yep.
I thought I saw you go off screen for a second there, but I was trying to set an arbitrary value cutoff where I'm after this point, I don't view the quarterback pick as mandatory. It's acceptable to take whatever, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson at 10, 11, 12 if you want. I just think it becomes much more arguable for the skill positions at about that point in the first round. Because Herbert, if he goes 5,000 yards again, 30 plus touchdowns again, you're going to regret if you passed on him at 6 or 7. And if Lamar runs for 1,000 yards and throws for just even 20 touchdowns passing for Lamar with his customary rushing production, is the kind of thing that could put him in the top 5 at quarterback. So after those two, and beginning with Lawrence, I think is when the skill positions become a serious consideration. And I don't know, it's in the big board and all the other underdog type best ball things, including going back to last year, I always wanted to get Justin Jefferson. I was I want to get Justin Jefferson on every team pretty much. And in this format, because of the 2 wide receiver rather than 3, it's not a slam dunk. I can see the case for taking McCaffrey ahead of Jefferson if the 2 are an option and the quarterbacks are not. And that would never be the case for me in the 3 wide receiver format.
And then what does that do in your mind again with receiver? being less of a necessity in that first round or early second. I know that you and I have not always been Travis Kelce in the first round guys, but does he look more appealing in this format to you if you're picking in that sort of quarterback dead zone like 8 through 10?
So it's still 20 rounds, and I don't know. Like I said because it's 20 rounds rather than 18 in the one quarterback, the big board. I advocated taking 3 quarterbacks on pretty much every team. It was like, well, we have 20 rounds. Why not just have a third starting quarterback, since you can find some random guy to play a receiver or running back in the 20th, whereas with quarterbacks you can't. You might expect me to say then I think you should take 4 quarterbacks in this format, but I think the right number is still 3. And just because it's like, if you have 2 good picks at quarterback, they will be your super flex and your quarterback for the vast majority of the weeks. And a third one, I think, would ideally be just like enough injury insurance plus, off the bench upside to do the job at quarterback. So I think you still aim for a similar or same tight end count as you would in the one quarterback format. I just never had I didn't have a very good sense of what the answer is in either one, or at least like I can see a range of justifiable positions. But I want to go 2 tight end if I can, because I just am skeptical that anyone other than Kelce and maybe Kyle Pitts and Andrews are going to do that much. And I don't know if you can catch the Kelce team, even if you go 3 tight ends, I usually do because I go so cheap. Like Chigozie Okonkwo is my easy tight end 1, so I'm not taking him until like the 12th, 11th round, stuff like that. But I would love to have a bunch of Kelce teams, because then you almost need to go 2 tight end rather than 3, because Kelce, if he's not your leading tight end scorer, 15 games or something, then your season went bad. So at that point, like negotiating the details from that given point, it's like there's no reason to. It's a dud already.
So going back to quarterback, as far as your roster construction, so you mentioned taking 3 in the single quarterback leagues. Is it overkill to do 4?
I don't think so. And so the reason to do 4, best as I can reason anyway, I would say that the reason you would go with 4 quarterbacks is because you're not confident in the first 3. Like being a super flex format doesn't mean that running back, receiver, tight end doesn't matter at all. But realistically, to win your league, you're going to have to post one of the highest point totals at quarterback production, even if you're going cheap at the position. It's like you need to find some way to be competitive at the position. And so if you have, I don't know what the example would be. It's like if you have Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, and Desmond Ridder as your top 3 quarterbacks, maybe that team should take a 4th one, because I don't know how you're getting to 30 points with those guys most weeks, So
yeah,
that would be the reason I'd say 4. I wouldn't want to be going 4 for durability fears, especially not in the tournament anyway.
And then, this is a detail that won't matter so much in a couple of weeks. But if you're drafting right now, do you think 4 is also a good way of getting a little bit of bye week insurance?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I don't know how to factor in, the trade-offs and things like injury outcomes are going to have a lot to say about which approach we call correct in hindsight at the end of the year. 4 quarterbacks could very well, if there's enough injuries at quarterback, that then the 4 quarterback teams are looking a little bit better. I would assume. So bad injury year for quarterbacks could tilt things that way. But if they all stay healthy, then I guess at that point, I would think quarterback would come down more to picking the right players than like outsourcing the question to volume. I don't know if that's like how you get upside. Because even like Anthony Richardson might be the ultimate like boom or bust quarterback on the board. And even though he could easily be a 0 all year, you're probably not getting him later than like, geez, I don't even remember how the Superflex. It was before the Superflex. It was like 12th, 13th round, so it might be something kind of unpalatably high for the Superflex version.
Right. So bear that in mind as well. That's going to round it out for our underdog strategy segment for Superflex. Again, use that promo code RWNFL. Get that first deposit over at Underdog. doubled up to $100. Get that free 6-month RotoWire subscription